Hello, gorgeous ones. It is Emma Jane here, and today I would like to discuss with you why it's time to rewrite your story. So, we all have these stories that have been fed to us. There's stories that have come from family, from friends, from relationships, from teachers, from bosses. Where it came from is kind of irrelevant. But we have these stories that were fed to us that made us feel a certain way, that created fear, that created a sense of unworthiness, of undeserving. And at some point in that journey and within the timeline of that story, we took that story as our own. So, what started off as just a story that was fed by somebody else about how they saw us or what we were, we then took those words and made them our own, and it became our story. Now, here's the thing with this story. Okay, it's not your story. It's not even close to being your story. It is absolutely not the truth. It is the biggest load of crap, really, that you could possibly be carrying. Yeah, I know you're carrying it as the truth because that's what we do. We take it on, we make it our own, we start to fully believe that this story is actually who we are, that it is the absolute gospel truth. And it's not. Now, for me, my story that I got told was that I was too fat, too ugly, it was wrong to be female. That then became something for me that equaled, okay, well, there's something seriously flawed about me. There's something fundamentally wrong. Now, Gay Hendricks talks about this in The Big Leap as this being one of those 4 fears and those 4 beliefs that really shape everything. I started to believe that there must be something seriously wrong with me, that everybody else could see it, and I didn't know why I couldn't see what the problem was, what this thing was that was so horribly wrong with me that would make people act and behave the way they did towards me. Now, what that did then was, because I honestly believed that I was flawed, that I wasn't worthy, that I was too fat, that I wasn't pretty enough, that I wasn't smart enough, that it was wrong to be feminine, that it was wrong to be a woman in general, that unless I was one of the boys and I did this and this, that I just wasn't going to be accepted, that it wasn't possible for me to be loved as I was. All that did was make me really shut down, really close off and push everybody away. And then I turned to food. I tried to control everything with food. Now, of course, what I ended up doing with that was using weight, using food as, yes, a means of control, but also as a way of punishing myself, because the actions I took proved that I really wasn't in any way, shape or form believing that I was worthy of anything. So it became a way of punishing myself for not being good enough, for not being smart enough, for not being thin enough, for not being this, for not being that. Now, these stories were designed solely to keep me small, to keep me under control. It meant that I would have to do what others wanted. And that was kind of their game plan all along. Now, it took me a really long time to realize that. But once I did, that really changed everything. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I have no doubt that you are also carrying stories maybe the same as this, or at least similar stories that have been told to you that are designed for no other reason than to make sure that you are afraid of being seen, that you are afraid of following your dreams, that you are afraid of allowing yourself to believe that you can have whatever you want in life. They've been told to you so that you honestly believe that you are unworthy and undeserving of whatever it is you want, that you can't have that loving relationship, that you can't have that successful business, that you of all people could not possibly go and buy a house, or you can't drive that car, or you can't live in that suburb, or you can't have that lifestyle, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. Now, this is not about you. This is why it's not the truth. These stories that, yes, right now you may have come to believe are yours, and I have no doubt that there are some of you sitting there right now going, oh no, but that's actually the truth. Like, no, this isn't a story that's been told to me. Like, I know that I'm not worthy of this, and oh, I know that this just can't happen. That's fine. I did that for years. I would have sworn black and blue for years that it was absolutely my truth. I knew that for a fact. I didn't, because it was a load of crap. But when you are stuck in that, it absolutely feels like the truth. It absolutely feels like it's your story, that you know this to be true, because it becomes the belief that sits within your mind. And one of the really tricky things, if you like, is that when we're stuck in that, it becomes another cycle that we're stuck in. So what we believe, we start to see, and then because that's what we're seeing, then that just furthers that belief. And so it's that nice little, oh, okay, well, this is what I believe is true. And see, I can prove that it's true because blah, blah, blah is happening. And because blah, blah, blah is happening, well, then that's just further proof that this belief is true. And so, of course, I'm going to keep believing it because this is all I'm seeing. So this has to be the truth because this is what's showing up. And it's that really little, another vicious cycle. It's like the cycle of emotional eating. It's the trigger, then the eating, and then, the feeling guilty, and then it's just like, oh. So anyway, what I want to share with you today, though, is that you absolutely have within you the power to look at these stories, the way in which they've shaped your life, the way in which you've taken them on as your own, and see them for the lies that they are. Now, I know that for some of you may be a little bit strong. So have a look at where they're not quite true. Okay? If lies are too strong for you, where are they a little bit false? Where's the falseness within this story? Where can you see that, you know what, I've carried this story and maybe that's not quite how things are at the moment, or maybe if I take a moment to look, I can see that, well, okay, I got told that this isn't possible, but well, there was this time when I kind of did that and it was a little bit successful, or there was this time when this happened and well, that kind of contradicts this story. Where can you start to see those contradictions and those falsehoods? It can be a lot to take on the story at once. It can be a lot to really sit down and look at that story and start to dissect it and take it all in one go. And if you can't do it all in one go, you don't have to. I mean, this is your healing journey. This is your truth that you're rewriting. But I wanted to let you know that you absolutely can rewrite your truth. You don't have to feel shame and guilt for something in the past just because others said that you should be feeling shame and guilt. You don't have to continue with a belief about yourself just because you were told by others who wanted you to stay small that was the truth. You can create your own story. You can become whoever it is that you want to become. We have this idea sometimes that we have to stay stuck as who we were because our identity forms around it. I was watching something the other day, and I moved around a lot when I was younger, but there was this, it was like some teens in this TV show I was watching, and she'd commented on how often she had moved, and one of the other girls was like, oh, well, that's great, you can literally be whoever you want at every new school you go to. Now, yes, that's a TV show, but as adults, we literally can be whoever we want to be. We can, at any point in time, choose to rewrite our story to one that is in alignment with our actual truth. we can rewrite our story to be one that is who we actually want to be. We don't have to keep believing those false stories and those false beliefs about who we were. We can create a new identity for ourselves at any point that we want to. Now, normally when I work with people in regards to rewriting their stories, it is about their body story. So it's the story that you've been told about your body, about how it looks, about what's acceptable, about what it's capable of. But this kind of thing applies to all aspects of your life, including your body, including your eating, including your business, your relationships, your level of education, your income level, where you live, the type of friends you have. You can rewrite your story at any time you want to, any time you choose. It's all up to you. So I encourage you today to have a look at those stories that you are carrying. Like, what is the number one story that is leading to the belief and the fear that you can't have what it is that you want? Now, whether that's the relationship you want, whether that's the business you want, whether that's the form of study that you want to do, whether it's the body that you want, the level of health you want. What's the story that you are carrying and believing that says you can't have that? Start with that story. Start dissecting it. Start pulling it apart. Where did it come from? When did it start being told to you? Who told it to you? Can you look at it and see why it was told to you? What fears and beliefs were being carried by the person who started telling you this story? When did you take it on as your own? When did that become something that you stopped hearing from others and started hearing from yourself? If you can do all that, it is a major step forward for you. And you don't have to rewrite the story right now today. You don't have to start doing that right this second. But if you can examine the story that's not true, it will then give you the power to start writing a new story. And it might take you a little bit to write that new story. It doesn't all have to be done today. I want to remind you of that. We seem to be in a world where everything's got to be done right now, today, or it doesn't happen. If you haven't made your $1 million by tea time tonight, well, then you failed. Things take time. Clearing out old stories and beliefs takes time. Learning to address the fear, learning to meet your worth again, learning to heal the relationship with yourself, it doesn't happen overnight. I feel the need to quote the old Pantene ad of "it won't happen overnight, but it will happen." Because it will happen. Okay, it will take time. And don't compare your journey and your identity and your story to other people. Okay, biggest mistake you can make. I know that for myself. It is all too easy to sit there and to compare yourself to what other people are doing and to how fast they're healing and to how fast they're moving forward and to what they're doing. We all have our own journeys for a reason. We will all get to where we need to go in the time that's right for us. It's not how fast you get there. It's the steps you take along the way to get there. It's a little bit tortoise and hare. Okay, you can speed through it. You absolutely can speed through it. Will your level of healing and that be the same? Maybe, maybe not. It will depend on the individual. But it's okay to take your time. It's okay to pause and take this stuff on board and to really work through it at a deep level. Now, in saying that, while I encourage you to take your time when you are addressing all this and rewriting your story and really examining those fears and beliefs, don't use the time as a way of avoiding moving forward. Okay, because it's a trick that I've often seen. Now, in tarot, the Four of Swords beautifully depicts this. It's about rest, but then there's always that little bit at the end of, are you resting or are you kind of like hiding, right? It's one thing to rest when you need to. It's one thing to take your time to do this healing work and to get to the bottom of the beliefs. But there's a really fine line between taking your time so that you can integrate the healing and taking your time so that you can avoid having to do the next step or avoid having to do the work. Now, what I mean by this is, let's say you have a story that says, I don't know, I've mental blank. But let's say you have a story that tells you that until you've done this, you're not going to be able to take the next step in your business, right? Or you're not going to be able to take the next step in healing your body. So you take time to explore that. Now, there's kind of not really a time limit, but there's an acceptable period of time in which you can do that healing work before it gets to a point where, oh, I'm still healing this story, so I can't now move forward in my business because I haven't yet healed this story or this belief, so I'm not ready yet. Or, well, I'd really like to do this in terms of my body, but I'm still working on this, so therefore I can't take that step into the next part of my journey. Don't let rewriting your story be an excuse for not then stepping forward into the next part. Sometimes you're going to have to just be brave. Sometimes you're just going to have to take the leap even if you're not quite ready for it, because that's when the really powerful stuff happens. It's about backing yourself. It's about having that leap of faith. It's about going, you know what, I'm scared shitless, but I'm going to try it anyway. That is powerful as well. So yes, I want you to do the healing work. I want you to look at those stories for whatever aspect of life it is where it's kind of holding you back, where you're allowing yourself to be shut down, where you're telling yourself these falsehoods. But at the same time, while you're working on healing this and moving forward, actually be moving forward. Don't just use it as a way of avoiding having to move forward, which is just as bad as not doing the healing in the first place. So that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Please drop a comment below. Let me know the story that you have been carrying that is so completely false and how it's kind of dictated your life, because I guarantee you some of these stories have been dictating your life. You've been making decisions and having experiences based on what it is this story has told you about yourself, and it has clouded everything. I can absolutely guarantee that is what has been going on. So let me know the story, let me know how it's affected you, and let me know what story you want to write for yourself. Who do you want to be? What kind of identity do you want to have? How do you want to see yourself? How do you see yourself? If you were to strip away, here's a question for you. If you were to strip away these false stories, who would you actually be? What kind of person would you be? How would she live her life? How would she look? How would she act? How would the rest of us be seeing that version of yourself if you were no longer being controlled by these false stories that others feed you? I can't wait to hear your responses. But until then, that's it for me, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye.